and welcome to JAX London. I'm here with Daniel Bryant. Hi, Daniel.
Hello.
How was the panel? What did you talk about?
The panel was interesting, yeah. We talked about sort of the Java 9, Java in general changing cadence in terms of release. So going forward, it will be Java 18.3, 18.9, these kind of things. We talked about the switch to, well, the kind of combination now of Oracle and the OpenJDK, or that's the best way to say it, but that the Oracle sort of moving towards a license of GPL, like a general public license. So lots of interesting change around cadence and around how things have been licensed, which in the past have been challenging. Like I think Don mentioned that on average we're seeing a new JDK release around every 32 months, something like that.
Yeah.
And also the previous license means you can't repackage kind of like the JRE so easily. So particularly with container implementations where you are putting it like a JRE in a container and shipping it somewhere else, there were some issues around licensing there. So that was super interesting as a kind of opener to the actual panel. But then the discussion I thought was brilliant, yeah, because the people we had on there, like myself, Martijn, Peter, Stephen, obviously, and Don. And Stephen is always one of those people that kind of sees a bit more perhaps than the rest of us and was literally on his feet thinking, he's like suddenly realized that the current version of Java 9 is not really going to be an LTS version. So if people jump on Java 9 now, the implication is you probably have to follow the train through 18.3 and 18.9. So that I was even like, wow, that's an interesting point. It was interesting seeing Stephen and Don, the dynamics, and just in general, the panel. I think there is much to be discussed in the community and much to be explored around how these two seemingly small changes, numbering and GPL, how they actually impact the Java ecosystem, probably in ways we can't even imagine.
Definitely. The impact will probably be bigger than, as you said, we imagine now. So what do you think about the new numbering scheme?
It's interesting. I do think people might be confused. There's two schools of thought. There's sort of the Ubuntu model, and Ubuntu, I think Firefox the same. The way they sort of bump things is you kind of know the 18.3 version is LTS or whatever, and you know each year or every 2 years they're going to release an LTS. So we've kind of got used to that. But I get Stephen made a point in the panel today about people are probably quite familiar with what we call semantic versioning, SEMVer. And semantic versioning is basically you have three numbers, 1.2.3 say, and it's major, minor, patch. And major, you can break the API, perhaps in backwards compatible or backwards incompatible ways, all these kind of things. The minor stuff is more, maybe removing some stuff that's not really going to affect functionality, and the patch stuff is just security stuff. So a lot of us, particularly from the Maven world and the Gradle world, we're used to building apps with that kind of SEMVer model, 1.2.3. And then when we suddenly need to do a massive change, we go to 2.0.0, for example. The fact that Java is going to move away from that kind of model, so in the past, when I was on Java 5, I knew going to Java 6, there might be changes, breaking changes. When I'm going to 6 to 7, I knew there's going to be breaking changes. Now, people are going to be jumping to, from 18.9 to 19.6, or 19.3, or whatever it is. 19.3, it's not going to be so obvious. My gut feeling is we'll probably get used to it, much as we have done with Ubuntu and things like that. But in fairness, things like Ubuntu, it's more the hobbyist, more the space where people are super interested in this. I think a lot of corporations, a lot of bigger enterprises, we're clearly going to have to, as an industry, or Oracle, for example, are clearly going to have to market the message a lot clearer. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, people may be thinking, 18 to 19, that's like a big change, like Lambda's coming in or something like that. And in reality, it probably won't be. But then one year, when it goes, I can't remember the exact numbering, but when it goes to, say, 20, it will be a big change. So I get Stephen's point. It's not an insurmountable problem by any means, but it's a thing about communication. I've definitely learned this from being a consultant many years. Communication is super important, yeah. Sharing your vision, sharing the kind of goals. And in fairness to Oracle, it's early days. We've only just got Java 9 now, yeah. But it feels like maybe we need to do more promotion. Oracle needs to do more promotion in terms of this is how the release train model works. This is what we can expect in the features, so that people aren't caught by surprise.
Yeah. So do you think companies should or shouldn't jump on the Java 9 bandwagon right now, or just wait until they basically understand what it means?
Yeah, so if you'd asked me this question before the panel, I would have given you a different answer. Yeah, so I'll tell you that one. So I would have said, jump on board, yeah, because Java 9 has got some really cool features, some performance enhancements, and if your application, if you don't want to modularize it or it doesn't really work with modules, you can turn stuff off with command line options. I know there is some cool new features in Java 9 which are kind of separate to modules. So there's compact strings, which I know some clients of mine are looking at. And if you've got an application that deals with a heck of a lot of strings, so the classic example will be something like Solr, Lucene, or Elasticsearch, you can get massive benefits by porting your app to Java 9. But it got me thinking, after Stephen pointed out in the panel that kind of Java 9, as it stands now, isn't really an LTS version, you could almost argue it's kind of a beta. If you're like a small organization, like an SME, and you're not paying Oracle for licensing, probably worth looking at now, because you're not going to have to modify your code much, and anything you do modify will probably be backwards compatible to 8 anyway. So you could try 9, do some tweaks. If it doesn't work, you can go back to 8. But if you're like a big organization, say a financial organization or legal organization, and it takes a big effort, kind of you're turning like a big steamer ship, yeah? You're not on a speedboat, you're turning a big ship. If that's the case, my advice would actually be no. And this is, I need to do more thinking about this, more reading. But at the moment, I'd say no, stick with Java 8. Stephen did a great talk actually before the panel. And Stephen's advice was, don't modularize too fast. Wait for the open source dependencies that you use to modularize, and then copy their lead, which I think is really sound advice because A, there's no point really modularizing if your dependencies aren't modular, because you don't really get the benefits, and B, you can also learn from what they're doing. So by not modularizing now, we can kind of, the sticking points, the tricky things that, like, say, Commons Lang has to go through and, other logging frameworks or whatever, we can see all the challenges they've got and then learn from the lessons when we do our modularization. Mm-hmm. Make sense?
Yeah. Speaking of Java 9 with or without modules, what do you prefer?
Oh, good question. So two things. I've only just started playing with Java 9, in fairness. I think the modules... Excuse me one second. Excuse me, talking all day. I think the modules are super interesting. So I'd probably run... Like, if I was porting an application, probably run it without modules up front, but then go towards modules soon as is reasonable. I like the kind of idea, two things I really like actually with the modular stuff. One is the idea of security. So you can kind of, encapsulate stuff. I think that's really interesting from the JDK point of view and also from our apps. Because I've worked on many systems where if we could have defined module boundaries more strongly, it would have led to I like to think it would have led to a better designed application. Because at the moment you can only use packages to kind of carve up your application, and it's very easy to cheat across those packages. I also really like, so moving towards some of my other interests with containers and stuff like that, I really like the idea of using something like JLink to compile down smaller versions of the Java runtime. So I've played around with the compact profiles, which came in Java 8 and so forth. But when you're, say, running in a resource-constrained environment like cloud or containers, the ability now to use the modular system to kind of only ship enough JRE to run my app, so I get rid of Corba and get rid of other stuff I don't need. That is super interesting. So that's something I bought the Java 9 modularity book by the guys I can't remember the names at the moment, but awesome book. I've got the book, so I'm going to work through that and basically have a play with some projects and stuff. So when clients, I'm sure a few clients have already expressed interest in this stuff. When they do come and say, hey, we want to do this, I'll hopefully have an understanding from the book. So that's my plan.
Yeah, great plan. But was it worth the wait? I mean, Project Jigsaw should have been part of Java 8, and it wasn't, so now it's the start of Java 9, and, well, was it? Do you think it was?
It's a good question. I think yes, and I've got maximum respect for all the Oracle people, because it was, like Martin pointed out in the panel, it's a massive change. Fundamentally, it touched every part of the JDK. So kudos to the Oracle engineers. They've done a fantastic job, untangling all the dependencies and so forth. So I think, yes, it's, fundamentally, yes, it's worth the wait. Would we have liked it earlier? Maybe it would have been better, because as containers have grown now, the popularity of containers like Docker and Rocket and stuff, Java has kind of just stagnated. So if we'd had the modules earlier, it could have perhaps grown together, but now we can pick up that journey, I guess. I think time will also tell. I think how the open source community reacts, how Oracle react, how we as application developers react, that will be, having this conversation in a year's time, hopefully at JAX next year, that will be super interesting, I think, super interesting.
And speaking of developers and what they think, I mean, Project Jigsaw, obviously the start of Java 9, and for Java 8 we had Lambdas and so on and so forth. Is Java 9 as interesting as Java 8? What do you think?
Oh, I think for the average developer, probably not in some ways, yeah? Because Java 8, like myself included, everyone, it was like Lambdas, like functional style programming, a whole bunch of cool stuff came in. Now, the changes to the platform are actually more fundamental, but they don't touch our lives so much as as our daily lives as developers. So I think in some ways, no, we had to do a whole bunch more teaching and stuff with Java 8 because you could put methods on interfaces. It was genuinely a game changer in terms of being a Java developer. We had to break a whole bunch of rules we'd taken as golden, for many years. So Java 9 breaks rules in different ways, but not so much for the average. And I consider myself average as well. The average developer. I don't think it's quite so impactful there.
Yeah. So let's go back like a week before, and Java 1. They are focusing on serverless, big time, apparently.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I think it's a smart move by Oracle because the cloud, containers, serverless seems to be where it's all going. I'm genuinely interested. The Oracle, they mentioned Worker, so they're doing they bought Worker a while ago, and now they kind of brought Java 9 fully into that. So that may be an alternative for things like Jenkins and Circle CI, all that kind of stuff, for building apps. And FN, they released this FN platform, and a few clients I've been working with on very similar platforms. So there's a platform called OpenFaaS, Open Function as a Service. IBM, Apache OpenWhisk, IBM do a lot of contributions to that. People are really interested in making applications more service-based, almost more modular, you could say, but more service-based. So I'm seeing most of the clients I work with, to be honest, are building microservices to some degree. And increasingly, they're building serverless stuff as well. Stuff that's really quite small and very much focused on the single responsibility. Rather than deploy like a whole, say, Drop Wizard app or a whole Spring Boot app, they're using things like Amazon Lambda, AWS Lambda. But by using things like a Cloud Lambda in Amazon's case, and Azure and Google have got similar things, you're locking yourself into that platform. So the promise of more open source technology like FN, like the serverless framework, like a whole bunch of other OpenFaaS, OpenWhisk, is that what you write, your functions you write, could be more portable. So I applaud Oracle for open sourcing. I thought that was a really cool move because it would have been very tempting for them, I think, to say, like many cloud providers do, we've got our own thing going on here. So I applaud that in Oracle. That was nice to see. It looks a cool bit of tech. I've played around with it. And I think going forward, it kind of, for me, it's almost Oracle saying, yes, we recognize where architectures are changing. We recognize you're investing in the cloud. And it's a good sign.
So there's basically a new player in the serverless game. Should the other players be afraid, let's say, of Oracle? It's just shifting away a bit from only Java.
Yeah, Oracle are a very interesting company. So I've worked alongside Oracle. I've never worked for Oracle, but I worked alongside Oracle for many years, like both in my role as a developer, but also I've been involved with the OpenJDK stuff and adopted OpenJDK. Oracle are very commercially savvy. That's the polite way of saying it. They're very commercially savvy, and I respect that because bottom line, everyone has to earn a living and so forth, and we live in a capitalist society. Yeah, it's all good. Should other people be scared? I don't think they are, to be honest. I think people like Amazon, Google and Azure, they're main competitors. I think they're like, yeah. But at the same time, for us as developers, I think it will hopefully drive more innovation. Because if, Oracle, have got a lot of weight behind them, they've got a lot of expertise, a lot of engineering resource. They're a very interesting company. And now if they might keep the likes of Amazon and Google and Microsoft a bit more honest. And honest is sort of funny kind of English idiom there, but in terms of they might sort of drive innovation, and it might see even more of a move to open sourcing things. So we as a community can chip in more as well. I think we've definitely learned from the lessons of 10, 20 years ago, where everything was proprietary and everyone created their own thing to be better than the next person. So Oracle created their own thing to be better than IBM. IBM did this. There was always collaboration going on, particularly in the JDK space, but often the kind of one level above, the value layer, there was a bit of an arms race going on. I'm better than you, kind of competition. But I like to see that kind of innovation. I like to see that competition, but I like to see it in an open space. So I'm really curious to see how Amazon in particular, because Amazon are massive and kind of clearly market leader in cloud stuff. I'm dead curious. reInvent is coming up. AWS reInvent, their big annual conference is coming up, and I'm going to go along to that this year, which will be awesome. I think in November. I'm dead curious to see whether they make any subtle references to Oracle, because in the past they have done. They have been like, hey, you can buy this product that migrates your database from something to AWS, and like the slide was in red, and you're sort of thinking, hang on, that's the branding of Oracle. So they're very subtle about this stuff, but I think time will tell. We'll see at reInvent what AWS fire back.
Yeah, true. Well, I also look forward to seeing what's going to happen next. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks, Gabriela. Thank you.